Hello and welcome to the 2 Cent Table, the podcast where people bring their 2 cents to the table. I'm Brian Bridges and I host this podcast with my mother, Carol Bridges. In the podcast's current state, the majority of these episodes will probably feature guests from our city of Moses Lake and the surrounding area. We'll generally try to keep topics interesting to listeners everywhere, but there may be times when we discuss our city, county, and state specifically. On this episode, we'll be talking to 3 play actors. Well, one is an actress. We have Sheryl Cassella.
It's that energy. You get your energy up on stage from what the audience is hearing.
Nick Mahaney.
It's fun as an actor when you are accustomed to getting laughs and claps and hoots and hollers to get ooh or to get booed.
And Adam Zaleski.
To play devil's advocate to every actor, the director is the biggest dummy in the world.
We'll be discussing what it's like to be in plays, how they differ from other forms of storytelling, acting versus directing, and a number of other topics. And so now it's time to listen in on the conversation at the 2 Cent Table.
So today we're going to be talking about performance, and I would like to hear about why, when it takes so much time and money, energy, why do you enjoy doing performance?
Extreme narcissism.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that, but really.
I do it because I love getting up there and being someone else, just acting, getting out, showing off. It is a little narcissistic to say I like getting up there and having people look at me, but at the same time, I like acting and just being a goof on stage, or if I get to be more serious. That was something I just did recently in Wait Until Dark. It was very much a serious role where I got to scare people. And
yeah, I was afraid to go to that. I didn't do it. I usually go to the Massacres. I skipped that one because of that.
You missed the best play we've ever done. I only say that because I directed it.
Well, okay.
That one, oh man, I loved making people scream. I have this thing where I apparently like scaring people.
Yeah,
and I just recently found out that, so.
Well, so I went to Scarywood with you, and last year, and it was the amount of joy that you had at there was equal to like a 10-year-old at Christmas morning.
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, it was with your what was that laugh that you constantly were doing?
You don't want me to do it here. I'll blow out the levels, but
it was a very high pitched laugh.
I 100% want you to do it here.
All right.
Just consistently. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think just entertainment. I love to be entertained. I love to be sitting out in the audience and watching people on stage. And in turn, I like to be on stage entertaining everybody out there. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge part of it. Besides the fact that I like to get up there and I like to sing and act in front of everybody. And
You've mostly done musicals, haven't you? Or
Yes.
Yes. And do you guys sing?
Poorly.
Oh. So if it was a comedy, it would work?
I've been, I was Willy Wonka just recently in Quincy's show. I've had some lead singing roles. People tell me I can sing.
You can.
I don't.
You can.
I don't believe them.
Yeah. People tell me I can sing, but my auditions prove otherwise. If I do musicals, I'm always in just kind of a little more behind the scenes with it. So and for me, it's not as much about the narcissism element of it, which there's a little bit of that. Being a performer, there's always a little bit of being that way. But I kind of fallen more into the directorial role. I like to create an effect. I like my audience to walk away with something different, or something has changed for them, and so that's my reason why I like doing it. I like to be able to affect people.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been acting since I was 5 years old. I mean, my first show it was called Inherit the Wind. It's about the Scopes monkey trials. I got to dress up in a monkey costume and play a gorilla.
Oh, cool.
At 5?
At 5, yeah. I was the only one who fit the costume that was available. That was my audition. It was a measuring tape. You're in. But I've been on and off ever since.
Performing or just acting? Performing, I started performing when I was about 6 years old. So quite a while.
You're only, what, 28?
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly it.
Yep.
I guess I'm the late bloomer. I started officially in high school. And that was a spur of the moment, I'm going to audition for Macbeth and see what comes of it. And I got a small role as the porter. If anyone's ever read Macbeth, that's one scene.
See, now you've got to leave, and we've got to invite you back. You can't say that word, man.
It's not a theater. It's cool.
It's true.
It's cool.
But it's a performing center.
And so, and I did a couple other small parts of it, and I fell in love. It was, and off and on since then. So it's been off and on for about not 16. I don't know how to count. Like about 13 years. Yeah.
Cool. Been part of your life, a big part of your life then.
It has been.
Yeah. What's it done for you?
Fame, fortune.
Yeah,
all of that.
No. I in fact, I never said fame. For me,
Why it landed them on this podcast.
I know.
yes, it did.
Wow.
Got us here. Actually, so to be fair, when I walked in here and you started talking to me, and you first said, I said my name, you go, "Are you an actor?" That was the biggest ego boost I've ever had. I'm like, somebody recognized me. Oh my gosh. And I got, but I mean, it was really cool. Now it's just, for me, it's getting to, it really hasn't done much for me except for I get to do something that I love. It's a release. It's, and it doesn't matter if it's a good release where I'm having an amazing time or I get so angry that I'm yelling and screaming in the parking lot. I don't know if anybody would have ever seen that, Nick. I've had a couple hard directors, and it was the decisions that were made I did not agree with, and so but after everything was said and done, the show was still great.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
A couple of shows like that, and for me, it's just like I said, the release of whatever's inside me at the time.
That's why that's part of the reason why I fell into the directorial role is it's a little bit of I have a pretty strong undercurrent of my way or the highway in my personality type, and it's hard to deal with it. That's why I'm challenging myself this next year and stepping out of director and going back into the actor role, because I want to, for one, those skills are, if you don't use them, you lose them, and it's a big part of that is to be able to do the process and shut up and take direction. And that's hard for me to do. And I was a part of that same show where one of those shows specifically where the director was just god awful. And every decision...
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh,
I wouldn't say god awful,
yeah,
but
well, I will.
The decisions that were made
were poor.
Were very poor.
Very, very poor. I'll say god awful because, well, whatever. She wasn't used to an actor like me.
That's true.
Where I do the method. I have a very strong method. I go and create a character and come back. And I had about a month and a half where I created the character that was written on the page from how I looked at it. And, so he's a 50s to 60s year old cop. And so I worked very hard at aging my voice and just a ton of different stuff. And in an instant, she goes, "No, you're your age now, and now instead of it being a father figure, you're now like a brother figure." And so, like, just the quick changes that director would do were very hard for me to deal with because of that kind of stuff. And it's hard to be an actor that builds and builds and builds up, and when you rip that stuff out, it's not very fun.
And see, for me, because I do things spur of the moment, very, I did improv for years, so I change things on a whim. But my problem was the style of the show was it's very much something that I'm in love with. I'm being vague about this because I don't want hurt feelings or anything, but I am in love with this style. and they took that and did nothing with it. And the choices they made, the adding things, taking things away, things that are important to that genre, it made me upset and I wanted to do more with it.
There was a lot of nuance, and the nuance was removed for camp.
Yeah,
and that which was unfortunate in my perspective also. But that's where like being an actor can be difficult, because your job is to shut up and listen to the director, and sometimes when the director is doing something that is hard for you to shut up and listen to, it becomes very hard. I don't know if you have that problem.
No, I don't. I don't. I get up on the stage and I love listening to the director. I have a house there's 6 of us in my house, and I run the house, and that's, I'm the director in my house. So being up on stage and letting somebody else run the show and just kind of telling me what to do, I kind of enjoy that.
Ooh, will you come audition for my shows, please?
It allows me to just be myself, or not be myself, but give me that release up on stage and be somebody else that I'm not typically during everyday life, which is kind of nice, being able to be someone else.
Well, what your profession is, you're a teacher as well, right? So, I mean, you're in every aspect. You are the director. Now, please come audition for me.
I do not envy the directors for any of the plays or musicals that I audition for or I perform in whatsoever. I would not want to have their
that's the best, because you are very much, you go with the flow.
Yep,
if I
sure
say,
do.
hey, stand up, walk over there, turn around 3 times, sit down, you will do that. And say, okay, now do it differently. You'll do it differently. Yep. If only there could be more like you.
Well, and the thing is that, directors are just complicated. Like actors are complicated. It's one of the things. This is very harsh, and so forgive me to all you actors here, but I think of this as that way because I'm also an actor, and I can say it because I'm this way. When you're a director, actors are human garbage, and the reason is for this. And hold on, is because the reason is for this is because acting is narcissism. It's all about what am I doing, how am I working, and no one likes narcissism in people, right? And so that's why I say that way, because a lot of times actors are so focused on themselves. That's why professional actors have that vapid look that's portrayed about them. It's not who they are. It's part of their profession, is always looking inward and always being who they are and trying to figure out, is this how I'm looking? Is this the right way I should come across this way? It's the director's job to put it all together. But so every individual actor should be looking inward like that, or at least that's how I view it when I act.
Well, and to play devil's advocate to every actor, the director is the biggest dummy in the world. It's like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. Yes, I know how to walk across the room. You don't have to tell me 1 foot in front of the other. But yes.
Well, I do know this. Those roles are entirely different. And when I owned the cafe, I had an application that everybody had to fill out if they wanted to work for me. And one of my questions that really was a question that mattered a lot more than the other questions. And that was, if you were in a play, would you be the director? Would you be the star? Would you be working on the props? Would you be in the audience? And I knew that you can't have a room full of stars at one time. Mm-hmm. So, you can have 1 or 2 in your employment, but you don't want them all to be stars because they're not going to get along very well. And and it's great these backstage workers try, those, because they're going to help you a lot in the back in the back room, exactly. In the kitchen. They're going to be the workers, and they're not going to want to be out there talking to everyone. And then the directors are sometimes kind of bossy because they are more aggressive in their personality and they have good ideas. And so when I was scheduling for a Saturday or a work day, I would try to think about that. Okay, I don't want to put
That's actually a really brilliant idea. I really love that. Yeah,
because it tells so much about you. The minute you identify yourself in one of those categories, it tells so much about you.
See, my problem is I would have wrote all of the above.
Yeah,
I do everything as
Yeah.
much as I can. So
Yeah, absolutely.
like Nick and I literally just spent the last
we've been there
5
since, like,
hours
8 this morning.
tearing down sets and putting things away. You know,
Yeah.
no show going on. We weren't even in the last show. We were just at the
Just
theater
doing it.
doing stuff.
How hard is it to memorize?
I mean, it depends on what it is.
You're all shrugging your shoulders like it was nothing.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on what it is.
Depends on the role.
Yeah, the last role that I had on stage was very hard for me to remember the lines, and that was, and there's really no reason why it was hard. I was really into the character. I was really, but
What was your last role?
that was Dinner.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so Dinner Before Dawn, and I should say, and I was lucky to have a crutch because I had papers in front of me, so I was able to have my lines written down, which I hate that I had to do that, but I just couldn't. Part of it was I knew the line, I just didn't know when the line hit because it went back and forth to so many different sections, and so there would be like 10 minutes on this side of stage, and then all of a sudden I would have the next line, and that was what my complication was. Is I had a hard time remembering my cue lines.
And you have music is a little different, but I was going to add to that and say you have your script for so long from the time you get your part until the director says, okay, everybody's off book by this date. And you literally have that book in your hands until the director's yelling at you going, get the book off stage, get it off stage, get it off stage. And you don't think you know it, but you really do.
See, and it's funny that people say that because honestly, I don't have that problem. I've been told numerous times that I have a rare ability to memorize things because I will get the script. I won't even look at it. I'll just do the show do a couple things. I might look at it here and there just to remember things. But then by week 2 or 3, I don't have the book anymore. I've memorized my lines, and I'm starting to memorize other people's lines. Like during Beauty and the Beast, there were times where I did that for Quincy. I was doing other people's roles because they couldn't remember their lines. And I was just showing them, this is what you got to do. And it makes people hate me, and it makes people happy with me. So
And the thing, one of the things about this, especially one of the people who just recently directed you,
I improvise a lot.
you improvise your lines, so you don't necessarily know your lines. You know how to get through your
Okay,
lines.
that's what I was going to ask. Nick, how
That's
much
the-
ad-libbing
yeah, you know
actually
how to get
goes
through
on?
your lines.
I can make you believe that my line is correct, and I will say it wrong every night and differently every night, but you think it's right.
But the person will key off of that anyway?
It depends on the actor.
Okay.
If you have an improv actor like Adam is, then, I mean, I'm one of those actors that I will memorize my lines, and I'll say them pretty much the exact same every single time. I may add or take away a word here and there depending upon the night, but if you have the very next line, you just go off of what they just said. You have to. That's part of being on
See,
stage.
for me, I've always said memorize the last word right before yours, because for me, I will change every. If my line the line is written down, remember that you should. Remember should, because should will be your cue, and I'll be like, oh yeah, just do it like you should. Okay, should is the word, but I'm going to change it every time because I'm not going to remember. Maybe I don't think it sounds natural, and that's where I get to use our favorite word apparently today, the narcissism of it. I can say this so much easier than this. Yes,
I'm better than the writer.
I'm better. Yeah, and as a writer, yeah, that hurts me, but I do that. I do it all the time.
What do you think about the audience? How much effect does your audience have on your performance?
A lot.
A lot?
A lot.
Absolutely.
100%.
It's that energy. You get your energy up on stage from what the audience is hearing. Matinees are hard because matinees usually tend to not have a whole lot of energy going on. But those evening performances, opening night, closing night, is so much energy out there in the audience. And that energy that the audience is giving you, it translates up on stage.
Especially if you're doing a comedy, if you get an audience where they are laughing as hard as they can, it's going to energize you. You're going to do more and more. But like, I remember one of our shows that we did was a comedy, and I get out there, I'm doing my stuff, I'm trying to be big, I'm trying to keep, but there's nothing out there, nothing at all. And I came off stage, I'm like, man, this audience is dead. And intermission comes, I'm like, oh, how are we going to do this? I'm trying my hard. And so actually it was my wife, Missy, comes back and she's like, man, they are loving it out there. They are saying it is so funny. Then laugh, people, please laugh.
You lied to him, didn't you?
No, and that's just it. It's I directed a comedy 2 years ago, and it's a huge laugh out loud comedy, and there were about 30% of the shows were non-responsive, and just one of the things I really find interesting about audiences is it only takes about a minute for the audience to set into what they're going to be like for the night, and so if it's and it depends on 2 to 3 people in the audience. If you have some really loud laughers, then the whole audience is going to just come in. It's like people do what they feel to be socially acceptable, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we just went and saw Cemetery Club the other day.
Yeah,
we were laughing our butts off in the back. And they told us, can you come for every show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it got the rest of the crowd going.
I'm always told I'm the best, one of the best audience members.
I told them I'm the best.
So, so
let's fight about it.
Yeah,
being that that's the case, do you think that you can tell whether, let's say you wrote a play, do you think that you can tell whether that play was any good based off of the audience, or do you think it's all kind of, you say, so I don't want to drop names here, but I know somebody that wrote a play and he said he knew the play was great because the audience was receptive. And to his credit, he ran it multiple nights, so he had multiple tests. But if you got one guy or 2 guys in there that are laughing hysterically and it gets everybody else in the mood, is that an accurate test, or
is the guy a plant? Like, did you say, "Hey, buddy, come to this and laugh"?
That's where the clarification is, because a lot of times for us we're plants essentially because we know these people.
Yeah,
but it's like one of the biggest laughs in that for us was because we know who that actor is, and we knew we knew that she knew that there was a creak in the set in that exact spot, and so she was going to step on it harder and it was like just a moment that was only funny for us because we built that set and we knew we were trying to get rid of that creak, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
And so,
but
for that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, we have a buddy who wrote a play. In fact, it was Dinner Before Dawn, where we were reading through it, and when I first read it, I told him this a couple of times, so I don't feel bad. I told him I don't get it, I don't blah blah blah. But the audience loved it. They laughed out loud. It was a good judge. Now, obviously, I did not feel the same, but I was proven wrong. Now, there's other people who've written things, and you think it's going to be brilliant, and people are laughing at it, and then you read a review or something, or you talk to people afterwards, and it sucked, man, and that's the worst.
And one of the things about when you write something, and then as a dialogue. I love when I hear fast-paced people talking on the outside. I know I speak really. I try not to, but I know I speak very fast. And
Missy's over there
Missy
nodding.
nods. She's like, yes, you do. And so I know that with that, it's something that I just wish that was how everybody spoke. And so when I write, I like my world to be that. But I know that's not what everybody likes to hear. So if I had a director that was slow everything down, well, for one, it would ruin the pace. Mm-hmm. But for two, it wouldn't be as I would have intended it as an author. And so sometimes that can happen when somebody writes something and if the writer or the author isn't right in line with what that director wants to see, especially if it's something new, it could ruin that.
But at the same time,
or it could elevate it. If it's the opposite.
I was gonna say you have you write really fast, witty comedy, and it's like, hey, knock knock, who's there? This guy, that guy, who? But then they slow it down, knock knock, and it's like, and then by the time you get to the punchline, it's been drawn out, it can make it even funnier.
It could.
And that's where the director steps in.
Yeah.
Maybe they see it differently than you.
Absolutely.
We went to room service, the old Groucho Marx play. Have you seen? Yeah. Anyway, we went to it in Seattle, and we were talking about that they pulled it off beautifully, but in the wrong setting with the wrong people, it could have been awful, because it's all depends on. Last night I watched the
Very physical comedy play.
It was fun, but it had to be just done perfectly. I watched the Glass Menagerie on YouTube last night, and it's an old play. I don't know if it sounds familiar to you.
It does sound familiar.
Yeah, it only involves 4 actors, and the lead role was Katharine Hepburn. And after I watched it, I thought, she was so weird. That was such a annoying character. I was just I felt irritated, afterwards. I thought, man, she's so annoying. So today I was thinking about it again. So I looked up to see if there was another performance I could look at. And the woman that was, I don't know who it was, but the woman that was playing her part was similar, but she took the edge off. Now I think that Katharine Hepburn was probably the better portrayal of who this woman was supposed to be. But the other lady kind of took the edge off, so I wasn't like, oh, you're driving me crazy. But what a difference it made between the people, Right. And it makes or breaks the play.
Absolutely. That's all going back to my thought process on that. That's why I like directing, is because it's all about that effect. That when that audience walks away, are they getting exactly what I want to see as a director, or are they getting, or what else are they getting out of it? So that's exactly it.
It's like choosing the right actor for the role. Yeah, it's like you might have somebody who has great star power, like Johnny Depp, and I'm going to cast you as Willy Wonka. But then you get somebody who doesn't have at the time great, like and his name just Gene Wilder. And, like, I'm going to cast you as Willy Wonka. Now, you look at the 2 Willy Wonkas, the guy who didn't have, the acclaim and everybody knew his name and had posters of him, he was amazing because he was subtle. He knew what he was doing. The different performer can change the role for whatever. And so, that's why you have auditions. It's why you look for who you want to be the best, you get to craft the world that you want. I might have a person in mind, I want this person to play this person. But then I have auditions and, person B comes in and they do it and I'm like, oh wow, they did that way better than the person I had in mind. Okay, well, here we go. So
Adam and I were just talking about this earlier because this next season I'm very proud to say that he's getting to direct for the first time, and I'm really excited for him for that. It hasn't been announced, so we can't say what play it is.
Yeah, but technically, it's the first time at Maskers.
First time you're directing it, officially at the Maskers, and so we were just talking about audition process earlier today because I for one decided I audition. I follow what the tradition was, but I had a lot of different ideas of what I could do. And we were just talking about some different things that he could do so he could find something different out of his cast. Absolutely.
Well, it's like instead of doing, hey, come in and read this, I want people to find monologues.
Yep.
I want to see what people choose for their monologues, what they do. Because I remember when I was living over on the other side of the mountains and auditioning, we didn't read from the book. It was, okay, state your name, state the part you want, and read a monologue. I don't care what the monologue is. And it was, you got 15 minutes to wow me. And so I might not do exactly that, but I'm looking forward to getting the chance to try that, see what I can do.
And that's what I started auditioning with, that exact process. And so that's very comfortable for me. But most of our circle of actors there probably have never done that.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Brian here again. We'll be right back to continue with this episode, but I'd like to take a quick moment to share a bit about myself and my other work. This podcast is a side project I've started with the interest of learning about some of the people in our area to promote them and glean some knowledge from them. But my main work is video production. My business is Video Street Productions, and I make social media commercials for business, I film highlight videos of corporate events, and I've done mini documentaries and day-in-the-life videos. My goal with Video Street Productions is to make high-quality videos available to people and business owners outside of the larger metropolitan-type cities. If this is a service you could use, feel free to check out some of my work at video-street.com. That's dash as in the hyphen symbol. From there, you can learn more about pricing and details and contact me from the contact page. My work can also be found on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search for Video Street Productions, or you can search for the hashtag VSPWA. And now let's return to the conversation at the 2 cent table.
So you guys are mainly, or I shouldn't say mainly, but you've done a lot of work with maskers. And you've done a lot of work, Sheryl, with Basin Community Theater. Do you feel like when you work together as a team on something, at the end of it, do you have a camaraderie that's just amazing? Or it just seems like that's what I hear people.
It's a family.
It is.
Yeah, but what happens 6 months later? Is there still that connection? Or?
I took a huge break off from musical theater when I started my family. Took a whole long time off, and it wasn't until about 4 years ago that Les Miserables came into town. Basin Community Theater was doing it, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to get back into this, and I'm going to audition for it. And I got a part of the ensemble, which is all I really wanted, because Les Mis is just a fantastic musical to be a part of.
I've always wanted to play Javert.
But even after that first time, I'd never met anybody from BCT. I am still, 4 years later, still really good friends with a lot of them. And I've done a few other plays. I took this last year off just because my life got hectic. So I didn't do My Fair Lady that they just did, but I plan on jumping right back in, and I'm sure I'll see familiar faces. We have people that come in and audition every year that you see every year, and it's so great to see them. But we do things outside of theater now. We went around and Christmas caroled. There was a group of ladies that we went around and Christmas caroled a couple of years ago, and we were BCT actors and actresses.
We've got a group that goes up every year to the Shriners Hospital in Spokane that carols up there, and it's most of them are maskers actors,
Yeah, absolutely.
You just kind of become family.
Yeah, hell, Nick and I just hang out sometimes, play games.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. It becomes family away from family. Yeah. And that's one of the things. And and I don't feel this way, but I know that it kind of there's a lot of people that do feel that way. Is that it becomes almost competition of families. I'm sure, right? Especially when there's so.
I hate my family. I like my acting family.
When there's so much, even within like the different, because for what our community is, we have a lot of different community theater organizations, right? And so it becomes I know there's just a big arms race for a musical, right?
Yeah.
Recently, and I think you guys got it.
Mamma Mia?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you guys doing Mamma Mia?
Are you doing it? Yeah.
Yes, we are.
And I know that all 3 theaters put in for it. And I know we weren't going to do it even if we got it, but we put in for it. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. That was a secret, but we weren't going to do it if we got it. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. No. One of the things that I guess is I'm the vice president of the Maskers, and so I know a lot of the behind the scenes, like I know what's buried underneath the stage. Oh, yeah. And who?
My cat mittens.
Yeah.
That's acting.
And so there's a couple things like that to where I know that we'll put in for something because we know that our casts and our whole family wants to do it. Mamma Mia is a perfect example. Everybody around us would love to do it, and it's like, well, if we get it, we'll consider what if we have the ability to do it or not. And as we were talking, it was just like, you know what, we don't necessarily have the same level of dancers that you guys have at Basin. We don't have the same amount of men that Basin has, and
Mamma Mia sucks, so it's all right.
Well, that's an individual opinion.
I am not a fan of Mamma Mia.
Well, it's just because you're a cisgendered white man.
That's very true.
And going off the whole family thing, somebody
exactly.
had said competition as well, even within BCT, as soon as we have an announcement of what the next musical or what the next play is going to be, it's constantly, oh my gosh, okay, call up your friend who also does it, and what part are you going for? You mean we're going to go after the same part? And, so you get a lot of competition, friendly competition, but you get a lot of competition that way.
Friendly. Don't look in my basement.
The last show I just directed, I had an actor that really wanted the part that I cast Adam as, and I don't think I would ever have seen him in that role, no matter what. But I cast Adam in this place, and I cast him where I saw that actor to be, and he was a little perturbed about it, and I just had to explain to him. I said, trust me, after you perform this, you'll see I'm right. And he came up to me towards the end of the run and was just like, "You're absolutely right. This is great. I like this character now." And that's just one of the things that sometimes actors don't. They want something that may not be exactly for them. Like for me, there's definite roles that I would love to play, but I'm not necessarily the right gender for them. There's so many characters that are written for women that are wonderful. I'm not going to play
John
those.
Travolta can do it. You can do it.
Well, that character's written for a man. But that's just it. But that's an extreme example. But it's like there's so many characters that if you're just not the right person, you're just not the right person.
What happens if you have a character, you were talking about Gene Wilder, and then replaced by Johnny Depp? People were so used to Gene Wilder after years of watching him.
Yeah.
What happens if you have such an iconic character and then you cast a play and you have nobody that can fill... Like we watched Les Miserables, and Toby Black played the part of the master of the house, and he played it almost exactly like you would see it in the Broadway play. And if you don't have that and it's such an iconic character, do you think that it could potentially bring down the audience reaction because it doesn't meet expectations, or could they push through that and hit it out of the park?
I mean, the point of playing the part is to make people forget that other people played it. One of the things that like I said, recently did Willy Wonka. I know that people know Gene Wilder. I know that people know Johnny Depp in the role. I know that I am neither one of those people. So what I said from the beginning is like, I'm going to play my Willy Wonka, and I want to make it so people forget about Gene Wilder, so people forget about Johnny Depp. I want people to remember this was Adam Zaleski as Willy Wonka, and make it my own thing. And I took aspects from both. I tried to just throw in different things from both of them. I think I did the stupid Johnny Depp laugh a couple of times, I did the stop, don't come back of that, but then I warped the character around it. I was very happy when I had people come up and say, you were fantastic, you were very good at this. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I was still very happy, and that's what I was looking for. I don't want people to compare me to them, especially to Gene Wilder, who is an idol of mine. But I wanted people to say, he's just as good, or he is on level with this person. Johnny Depp, I don't care.
And I honestly think that a lot of people that go and see theater, go and see plays, go and see musicals, they have that open mindset. They know the story. They maybe have seen it a few times, especially with something like Les Mis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've probably seen it all over the place. You've probably watched the movie on TV. Each one is going to be just a little bit different in some way or some form.
And music is probably even more so that way.
Yes.
Because the voices are the thing.
Yeah, I had a very different experience from that. I did Shakespeare in the Round here in Moses Lake, and we're doing Hamlet. And naturally, with Hamlet, you decide to cut some of the show because no one wants to sit in a seat for 4.5 hours.
That's right.
And so,
cut out Guildenstern and Rosenberg.
The director decided to cut some major parts out of it just to keep it a nice under 2 hours. And to have a 2-hour version of Hamlet's pretty hard. Yeah. And so I played Polonius, and still one of my favorite characters I've ever played. However, I was giving one of my monologues, and I heard an audience member, because we were performing in the round and there were audience within 5 feet. I heard an audience member whisper, "That's not how it's written." And so, yeah, and I think that's definitely like the not very common at all. No. But it's one of my most favorite things I remember from.
I would like to point out we did Hamlet last year in 45 minutes? We did it in 45 minutes, and then we did it in 30 seconds, and then 10 seconds, and then backwards.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare. That's Shakespeare Bridge.
I directed the complete works of William Shakespeare Bridge last year for Quincy Summer Theater, and nobody saw it. So I'm hoping to bring it back because it was a blast. But the whole second half of that show is doing the abridged version of Hamlet, and then after they finish it, they do it faster and like do it in 30 seconds. You do it faster, and it's like everybody says one word and falls down dead. Yeah. And then somebody says, "We're going to do it backwards." Yeah. So you do an abridged version of it backwards. So to death or is it, and you're going backwards. You're doing different things. You're picking up everything. It was so much fun. Yeah. You get a chance to watch Shakespeare Bridge.
Shakespeare Bridge is such an interesting, really interesting piece of literature, because it really encapsulates how most people feel about Shakespeare. But my favorite line in it is, and these are the histories, no one cares about them.
Exactly.
Which is so true. No one ever produces a history.
Oh yeah. We're going to go back to the dramas from Shakespeare, because we found that the dramas are much more funnier than the comedies.
Which is true.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, speaking of Shakespeare, that was written a long, long time ago. And so we know that plays have been going on for a really long time. Are they going to go away? We have all kinds of media. We got movies. We got books. We got all kinds of stuff to entertain us.
There's always something about a live performance that you cannot get from movies. You cannot get from a podcast. No offense. You can't get from the internet.
Yeah.
The unpredictability. You don't know what's going to go wrong. One of my favorite things is, during Wait Until Dark, at one point I walk out there, and my character just has to stand there and look. And I'm looking, and I'm glaring, and I look to my left, and there's now this is based in the 50s.
Yeah,
50s?
50s.
There is a plastic bottle of Diet Pepsi sitting on the counter.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and
this was clearly a mistake.
Yeah, but I come off stage, and I'm fuming. Why she left it there? Why would that? And Nick turns to me and goes, "Adam, it's live theater. These things happen.
Deal with it."
And I'm like, oh yeah, it's one of those things. It's the unpredictability of a live performance is why you go see it.
Exactly.
I went to Ken Green's play, and in Soap Lake, and there's this part where he had to hit the music player. And so he hit it, and nothing happened. So he had to ad-lib some lines as to why it was broken.
Yep, absolutely. That happens probably a little too often, but it's one of the most fun things when you're an actor. So it was closing night of Aces Are Feverish.
Yep.
And and this is a major dramatic shootout scene in the middle of this comedy, and like 5 people are going to die in this scene.
I saw that, yeah.
And I'm one of the people that dies in the scene, and so we had some actors that were really uncomfortable with using not live ammunition, but live sounding ammunition, and like that we controlled.
I forgot about
this. So we used canned gunshots, and it was time for the canned gunshots, and all of us started going, and the gunshots didn't happen.
And so Jeff Ames is like, bang, bang, rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, yeah. And then the gunshots start, and everybody's dead already.
Oh,
I am dying backstage watching.
It was a nightmare.
Okay, I'm going to have to tell you a story about this, because we were there.
You were at that performance?
We were there, and we took some friends with us, and they're more of the serious type, and they're sitting there trying to solve the mystery, and saying, "Who do you think? What do you think?" And I'm thinking, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just enjoying the play. I'm not trying to figure out what's the ending. So
They'll
anyway,
tell you eventually.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So then when they all died, they were mad. They said, well, that's not funny. That, they couldn't find an ending to the play. What, and it was
I was
really,
still alive.
I was funny because it was, we were startled by the reaction and we just thought, well, that's different.
Yeah, because there was quite a few red herrings that went into several of the characters that died in that scene, and of course, the ending is that it's the baker, but
Spoilers.
yeah, spoilers, right? That's such a fun play for that purpose. Is that the way that Matthew wrote that gave a lot of really strong clues that you were thinking that it was going to be one of these people that was in that shootout scene, and whether you were thinking it was the dirty cop or whether it was the shady nightclub owner, and when it's none of them, it's just like, well, where the heck does this go now?
Matthew Weaver.
It was a great beginning of the second act.
Yeah, Matthew Weaver, who wrote the original, world premiere of it. He was there almost every night, and I still have that script because we got digital copies of it. Yeah. I have it printed out. I love that script to no end, and hopefully we'll get to direct it again one day.
It'd be fun to do it again.
See what we can do.
Different theater,
different time, different actors. See what can change. Because like we were saying earlier, it depends on who you have, who's the director, what they're doing, and just the show can drastically change.
That's one of those shows that it's completely open to that director's interpretation of it. It's the way it's written flows so much to wherever that director leans. And so it'd be fun to do again.
Oh yeah.
Changing people around and whatnot.
10 years from now, when they allow us to.
Well, it's just a different theater. I think there's more. I think we're finding that. I just heard that, I don't know how this was like 14 lines down the way from the person that said it, but I understand that there's another small town community that's being ready to start a theater. So
oh really?
Yeah, and so Cooley City.
Oh,
and so I just know that there's so much theater in the area for and a different theater.
BCT doesn't do actual plays; they just do the musical, right?
They just do the musicals.
They do the musical. Yeah.
I think it would be fun to
like one a year, right?
Plays.
Well, sometimes they do 2 a year.
Okay.
It depends on the year. Depends on fundraising aspects and everything. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just these last couple of years, it's just been 1 a year.
Well, and that's what's hard when you don't have a theater for yourself. Is that we're spoiled.
We are,
because we have our own theater. We get to rehearse on our stage every single day. Yeah. You don't get that.
No,
at all.
Yeah. I was sad that so much goes into the musicals. I mean, I know they do and all the plays, but so much goes into the musicals, and yet they have to use someone else's stage, and so you're given a time, and that time is quickly over. I mean, it might be a weekend or it might be 2 weekends, and if you're out of town, you're going to miss it.
Yes.
And so I always, every time I've gone there, I thought, oh man, I wish so-and-so could have come, but they were gone, and so that's a sad thing about.
Yeah, and they, they try to run it for, a good five or six shows, but yeah, it's hard when you don't have your own theater. And
that's
same thing with
we're
Quincy.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka. We would have loved. I would have loved to do more because I lost my voice during the 2 weeks that we could do it, and like pure imagination, I wanted to sing it as best I could. And I'm singing it like this,
We had to imagine your voice.
Yeah. I sing it every chance I get now. I just go on stage and make people listen. But we wanted to extend it another couple because we had all that snow days and all that stuff. We wanted to extend it, and
it was a rough summer or rough winter.
We got a big no from because it was a high school. Well, they had their own stuff to do, and it sucks not having your own place.
And that's where we're just so spoiled at Maskers and Soap Lake because we get to run a musical for 4 to 5 weekends.
Yeah.
Do you think you can tell the truth in a play that you couldn't say in other forms? Is is it a unique, and I don't know if unique is the right word, because I think sometimes music is that way or comedy can be that way, but is there something about a play that you can convey something that might be offensive or people might be not able to receive?
I just had a really bad joke. I'm not sure how how well you guys are cool with it.
Do you mean like uncouth?
It's in poor taste. So, it's just, if you want, please cut this. But I think Abraham Lincoln had something to do with that. There was some truths there.
Well, so to answer your question, I think every art form can tell its own unique story. Like everything is uniquely unique. Like when it comes to
uniquely unique?
You absolutely can.
You can, but it's redundantly redundant.
Yes, you can.
Like unique New York,
Yeah, and so you can, and I use that phrase for that exact purpose. Is that every music you mentioned is very transformative, and at least I feel it is. Musicals are incredibly transformative, but I think plays definitely can shine light. Musicals can too, where it's hard where it's difficult subject matter. I just got done reading a play that was written in the 80s called Safe Sex. It was written by Harvey Fierstein, and it's about 3 one-act plays about these gay men dealing with AIDS in their life, and I don't in a community like this, I don't know if it would be very easy for them to handle it, but I would hope they could. I think plays are and musicals. I think anything on stage is such a open source to where people can walk in, experience something that they weren't ready to experience, and then leave and be changed for it.
And I don't think it's just musicals and plays. My daughter dances.
Yeah.
So even dancing, getting up on that stage and dancing, her dance company, they had a small group performance, and it was all based off of the school shootings for the last 20 years. Which was very heartfelt and just moving, just watching them up on stage, not saying a word, not singing anything, they're just dancing.
And I think that to open it up more, I just think that's what art does.
Well, I mean, you look at shows like Spoon River Anthologies or Our Town, plays that were written so long ago, but they still perform today and they still move you today because everybody can find something in there that they connect to, whether say Our Town, whether it's the mom watching their family grow up, whether it's the son dealing with becoming an adult and dealing with the unexpected loss of things that happen, spoiler alert, or even some like Spoon River Anthologies, which is just monologues of people's life. But in those monologues, you find a little truth in yourself and you think, I connect with that. I feel with that.
I found that in spoken word poetry, sometimes I think, that's what I want to say. I just want to kind of reach out and take it and say, if I knew how to say that, that's how I would say it.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I just listened to some of the best poetry, and I'm forgetting her name, but I encourage everybody to take a look at it, and it's called Why I Wear Purple.
I just saw that.
Did you? Mm-hmm. I thought it was some of the best spoken word poetry I've heard in a very long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to remember it. Yeah, I won't forget it. I can easily tell you later.
By Andrea Jenkins.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
TED Talk.
I wonder how you feel about this. This is an interesting question because I asked the same question to the book authors. Should the people in the play, the actors, do you feel any responsibility, or directors or playwriters, do you feel any, like, I'll say moral responsibility towards the audience? Do you feel like in the big picture, would you perform something you were uncomfortable with as far as morality, or do you just think it's just a play? What's the problem? You
I
know?
don't think you would audition it for anything that you would feel uncomfortable with. In that same scene, I don't think that you would accept a role that you weren't, because given a cast list, you can not accept it. You can go back to the director and say, "I'm sorry, just don't feel comfortable with that character, and I think it's not for me."
Would you do that? Do you think you would?
I think oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. If there was a role that I wasn't comfortable with, I would absolutely turn it down.
And I'd want that from any actor too. As a director, I tend to push my actors really hard, and so with the two plays that I've recently directed, one being just all out as fast paced farce. I think some of that action is very dangerous, and so I pushed those actors to their limit, to where they were as comfortable as they humanly could be, but without crossing that line. Because and I absolutely operate an open door. Please tell me if you're uncomfortable. I mean, Adam can say from the last show. I mean, Wait Until Dark. There's a good chunk of that's 100% blackout. And we went through our theater making sure it was blacked out. Any extra light we were trying to black out that, so it was as black as possible in that room. And I asked every single rehearsal, "Are you guys comfortable? Do you know where you're at? Is everybody okay?" Because ultimately it has to be about comfort. No, that's physical comfort. You're asking about morality. I don't think, like, there's a play called Goat.
I was wondering if this was going to be brought up today.
Yeah, I always bring this play up, and because this is a perfect play to talk about when it comes to morality, and because it's very difficult subject matter. It's about a man who falls in love with a goat, and he has a relationship with the goat and leaves his wife for the goat, and it's difficult. It's hard to read. I couldn't imagine being comfortable watching it, but its purpose is to make you uncomfortable, and by the end of reading it, you believe this love, and you understand where the wife character is, where she's scorned, and because it's not only is it being cheated on, it's being cheated on with an animal. It challenges what our perception of love is, and it's such a great piece of art that is morally reprehensible. For most people would think that way, but the art is so good, and it's written so well. I would love to see it sometime. Would that be something that I would do? I would consider it, because I first and foremost, I like doing art.
Well, and to play off of that, not goat wise.
Yes, of course.
Something
that's an extreme example.
A little closer to home. Maybe not closer to home, but. You made me think about it, and I was thinking, something that I am morally opposed against. Would I still want to play it? Nick and I last year went and saw Cabaret. Yeah. I have never seen that. I had never seen it before. I watched it, fell in love with it, but it has to deal with Nazi Germany. And I was sitting there and I'm thinking, would I ever want to play a Nazi? Would I ever? And I've said before, I'm hard to offend. I'm hard to cringe at anything. I feel, would you want to play a Nazi? And I've got, for me, the challenge there to play a Nazi, to play it well. I'm not talking like Jared Leto, fall into the character where I'm mailing disgusting things, but.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
You should clarify where you're gesturing to me.
I
have never mailed a dead animal to anybody.
He did. He said method acting, and I'd never heard the term method acting, so he's explaining, and that's where that came from.
Exactly. Well, and like getting into that headspace, I found, especially for Wait Until Dark, my character was a very disturbed and deranged person. And I found I am not one for big method acting. I can get on stage, turn on, turn off, blah, blah, But for rote, I found myself having to get into a different mindset every time I had to play it. And I'm not trying to come off like, yes, I fell into the character.
But it's what happens.
But it's what happened. And I had to tell Missy a couple of times, if we're driving home and I say something, you need to say, hey, you're being rote right now. Pull me out of it.
Yeah.
Because you can get lost in it. And portraying something morally reprehensible, ergo a Nazi, yes, I think I do not agree with them. But in a show like Cabaret, I would jump at the chance to play that because it is such a pivotal role, and it is such a Cabaret. The nice thing about it is like the character who you find out is a Nazi in the end. You think it's just the greatest guy throughout, and then there's that switch, and I think that would be interesting to do.
Think people identify you with that? I mean, later on they'll say, "Oh, mommy, look, there's that that Nazi."
I had people coming out of Wait Until Dark who did not want to talk to me, did not want to look at me. I was standing out there, smiles and big. People were scared to walk out and meet me because of how I acted in the last 10, 15 minutes of that show. And for me, I had never been happier in my life, except for the day I married my beautiful wife. But it thrilled me.
It's fun as an actor when you are accustomed to getting laughs and claps and hoots and hollers, to get ooh or to get booed. When you to take your curtain call and get a boo. I mean, that's just fun.
I had legitimate people not I had my friends who boo Adam boo. I had people legitimately booing me.
Yeah.
And I had never been happier. Yeah. Which sounds so weird.
Not like boo bad performance, but like boo your character sucks kind of, or is horrible kind of thing.
You've done your character well. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah.
I had somebody come up to me at the gas station the other day and say, "I saw you in Wait Until Dark. You were awful." I'm like, "I'm really a nice guy. I promise."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I know. It was good, but and it was one of the first times somebody has approached me outside about a performance I've done." And they're like, "Dude, I just got to tell you, you were awful," but awful in a good way. And I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, and that's where community theater is unique, because we watch a movie and we know that The Rock is not the movie Skyscraper's coming out. We know that he doesn't have a fake leg and can jump across, and it can jump 200 feet. But we know that's not possible. But people treat live theater so much more real, which elements of it are way more real. Of course, it's happening right in front of you. But it's the same thing. It's just acting. My favorite story is Angela Lansbury saying, that's one of my favorite quotes of her. She was in a Fresh Air interview, and she was asked about, she was playing a character that, all the world falls apart around her, and she's holding her dead sons in her arms. And 3 minutes after the show, she's out there hugging people, and all the fake blood is washed off of her. And the interviewer asked her, "How do you do that?" And her answer is, "It's just acting," and which is, I think, is a perfect encapsulation of it for me. It is just acting. That's why it's like anything that is difficult subject matter. If I'm interested in what the play is saying, like what the thesis of it is, absolutely, because it's just acting.
We're coming up towards the end. Did you have any questions that need to get asked?
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck?
we don't know.
You're dealing with actors. We talk a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, I think this has been a good. It's been good because you've all had a lot of experience and you all have a lot of stories. It's been fun. So yeah, we probably are coming to the end here. Dinner, stuff like responsibilities, kids at home.
What is all that?
You have anything you want to promote? This will probably launch sometime in the next month to 2 months somewhere. Anything upcoming or any place people can find your works or anything?
I know Basin Community Theater has auditions for Mamma Mia coming up. There hasn't been a set date yet, but from what I've heard, around November-ish, they have Mamma Mia, and you can absolutely find their Facebook page with all the information, as well as their website, Basin Community Theater.
The Maskers Theater has a lot going on. Of course, so it depends on when this is released or not. We have auditions for our fall musical, which is The Unsinkable Molly Brown, and that is towards the tail end of July. We have in August is our annual membership gala, and so that all that information is on maskers.com. That's masquers.com, and that's a lot of what we have this year. Once the summer hits, it's just the gala and the musical, and so we've gotten everything else done this year.
Yeah, and if you like listening to my voice talking over things, you can find me on YouTube, Jade from OI. That's OI as in Oscar Ida. You can follow me on Twitter or find if you Google or put into Amazon Adam Zaleski, you can find some of my short stories and books there. But if you like listening to me talk, and I don't know why you would, but those are some good places to find it.
Yeah, and I'm easily accessible on Facebook also. Personally, I suffice to some of the things I've said today. I am a nice guy. A lot of my thought process is I separate myself from my art because when you live your art, that's not a very good thing. So especially when it comes to theater. So a lot of my process is very different from who I am.
See, I live my art every day because I like to act, and so I act like I give a crap at work every day.
No, he doesn't mean
Terry.
that. He doesn't mean that.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
If you want to search online for the 2 Cent Table podcast, here are the places you can find us: Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. You can follow us on social media as well on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have a topic idea for the show, if you'd like to be on the show, or if you have a way to connect us with some interesting potential guests, feel free to message us on any of our media platforms or email 2centtable@gmail.com. The 2 in that email address is TWO. And we'll consider your idea for future episodes. But that's all we have for this episode, so we'll see you on the next one.